Welcome, traveler of quiet hours. Before you drift into sleep, let us take a calm, unhurried walk through the soft corridors of time. Imagine the faint flicker of a candle, the whisper of turning pages, and the slow rhythm of a storyteller's voice. Tonight, we will wander gently through the story of the world's oldest books, not as scholars rushing to learn, but as dreamers listening to the pages of history breathe. So, lie back. Let your breathing grow steady. Let your shoulders rest. And as you close your eyes, let the sound of this story guide you into the calmness of forgotten centuries. Part 1. Before there were books. Long before books looked the way we know them, before paper, before covers, before inked letters on flat pages, there were stories. Stories spoken beside fires, whispered beneath the stars, carved on stone walls. People needed to remember harvest times, kings' names, prayers, songs, and myths that shaped their hearts. In the lands of Mesopotamia, thousands of years before our modern world, people pressed tiny wedge-shaped marks into wet clay. They used slender reeds, cutting soft patterns into tablets that would harden in the sun. Those marks were cuneiform, one of the earliest known scripts, the quiet ancestor of writing. And in those clay tablets lay the world's first books. They were not made to be held and read in bed. They were heavy, earthy, solid, yet full of thoughts. When the clay hardened, so did the words, trapped for eternity in silence. They told of trade, of laws, of kings, of stars, but also of human dreams. Part 2. The Sumerian Whisper. If you listen closely, you might almost hear the soft scrape of a reed stylus. It was around 2500 BCE. In the city of Uruk, scribes worked quietly in rooms lit by daylight, filtering through small windows. They copied the words of kings and merchants, but sometimes, when the day was slow, they wrote stories. The Epic of Gilgamesh, carved onto many clay tablets, is often called the world's first great literary work. But think of it not as an epic of war and gods, but as the whisper of humanity's first bedtime story, one of friendship, loss, and the search for meaning. Perhaps someone once read those tablets aloud at dusk, as a family gathered near the fading light, the air warm and still. Outside, the Tigris and Euphrates glimmered softly, the same rivers that still carry dust from those ancient cities. The stories traveled with them, quiet, steady, eternal. Part 3. Egypt's Paper. Dream's time drifts forward like the slow current of the Nile. In Egypt, the desert met the river, and between them, civilization found its rhythm. Here, the first pages were born, not of clay, but of papyrus. Papyrus plants grew tall and green beside the water. Egyptians cut the stalks, pressed, and dried them into thin sheets, then glued them side by side to form long rolls. They wrote with brushes dipped in black ink made from soot and gum. The scrolls could be rolled open like a long dream, unspooling a story or a hymn from one generation to the next. Imagine the calm of a temple scribe working in the shade, his hand steady, the sound of birds echoing outside. He writes slowly, breathing evenly, perhaps whispering each word as it flows across the page. The Book of the Dead, the hymns to the sun, the instructions of Ptahhotep, all came to life this way. These scrolls were not merely records. They were bridges between the mortal and divine, meant to accompany souls on their eternal journey. Each brushstroke was a prayer, each symbol a soft echo of eternity. Part 4. The quiet libraries of the ancient world. As the centuries unfolded, books began to gather together in places built for silence. The Library of Alexandria rose along the Mediterranean, filled with scrolls from Greece, Egypt, Persia, and India. Sailors brought new stories, scholars copied old ones, and somewhere deep within those marble halls, someone probably whispered, "Be careful with the light." Imagine the sound of sandals on cool stone floors, the faint smell of ink, the soft flutter of papyrus as a student unrolls a scroll. These were sacred places of quiet learning, temples of memory. And even as time would one day burn those walls to ash, the idea of a library, a sanctuary of written dreams, survived. Because every time someone copies a word by hand, history breathes again. Part 5. Words on silk and bamboo. Far to the east, in ancient China, books took another form. Strips of bamboo tied together with cords. Each strip held a few columns of characters, brushed carefully with ink. The rustle of bamboo was the rustle of thought itself. When silk became available, the pages grew softer, like clouds that could hold words. The Chinese understood early the connection between writing and harmony. Books were not merely read, they were meditated upon. To write beautifully was to breathe beautifully. Every stroke of a brush was a breath, every page a slow movement of Part 9. The books that survived time. So many books have been lost to fire, flood, war, or forgetting. But some survived like whispers of endurance, fragments of papyrus in desert sands, cracked tablets in buried cities, manuscripts kept safe in hidden libraries. Each surviving page is a heartbeat from the past. When you read one, you hold not just words, but the breath of those who wrote them, their hopes, their quiet afternoons, their belief that what they recorded mattered. Even now, archaeologists uncover new pieces, a line of poetry, a law, a list of stars, and each time it's like the past softly opening its eyes. Part 10. The Living Page. Today, books are everywhere, glowing on screens, stacked on shelves, whispered into microphones. But at night, when the world grows still, the oldest books still breathe quietly in museums and libraries. Their pages are brittle, but their presence is soft and calm. They remind us that knowledge was never rushed, that words were once made by hands with patience and love, and that somewhere deep inside we all share the same quiet wish to be remembered, to be read, to be understood. So as you drift toward sleep, imagine yourself in a vast library of time. The shelves rise like gentle hills. The air smells faintly of parchment and dust. And somewhere nearby, a candle burns low, its flame barely moving. You take a seat, open a book, and read a few lines that no one has spoken in 1,000 years. The words are small. They speak of beginnings, of dreams, of peace. And as you turn the final page, your eyes grow heavy. The light fades. The story rests. And so do you.